And we're back with the sixth episode of Universe Ticket titled Growth. This one starts off with a new, signal song. I think it's the second one. It's Ticket to You. And honestly, I don't even remember the first one. And so let's just get back to their Prism challenge, where they have to move up all the letters of Prism, starting at M. And so in the last episode, we looked at the average teams compete. And now we're looking at teams low and team high for this whole episode. But we start off with the low team, and when it comes to the low team, they're low skilled, I guess low prospects as well, and also maybe low self esteem. And they basically have them singing remixes of what will be, I think, men's songs. And so the producers, the Galactica guys, said that when they were working with them, the goal was basically to bring up their energy levels and build comfort because they were unhappy with their current place in life. And so, when they're like trying to show them the songs here and demoing the songs to these guys, I feel like the producers are kind of like almost competing with each other about their song covers as well. But anyways, let's get to the first low team, which is, I think, Team Volcano. And so, when they were assigning the roles, everyone went in the center. And in the end, I think Jang Sua got the center. And in my opinion, she has the kind of face that naturally stands out because of its uniqueness. And then after this, Galactica took them to eat and praise them during their meals. But then after this, it was time for hard work. And so Yuan started leading them in practice. And basically, the idea behind this is it's all repetition until they get muscle memory. And then they're also building endurance. And so, to some degree, I would say maybe the team, even though they just ate, they're not hungry enough. And by that, I mean, I think because they're low, they're too busy feeling sad rather than, really just taking this as an opportunity and fighting for it. Some of them, it seems like they're talking about just stumbling into being an idol. And, I wonder if these guys even like the aspect of singing and performing and trying to get better at it and improving yourself. But anyways, during the recording, you have Sua struggling, and eventually, when they get to recording again, she has her part taken, and she cries over the thought of even having it taken. But anyways, we get to the performance, and this is them. And I'll be honest, I don't even know if I even liked the choreo as I was watching it because there was some kind of I'm not sure if it's like an armless shuffling, but it felt like switching positions was kind of weird, and it felt awkward because when people are like idols switching positions during moves, normally that's kind of like hidden. It's not supposed to be noticeable, but this one I kind of felt it everywhere. And as these guys were performing, I felt like Sua could put more into it. And sometimes I just saw her like looking at other dancers while moving around. But overall, I would just say the team probably lacks the swagger to do this actual song, and they're going through the motions but not owning the song. But at least they're not like totally ruining it by like missing moves and like cracking in their voices or anything. But then what's interesting is that at the end of this, the judges totally mirrored my thoughts on it, and said, yeah, they were kind of like just doing the moves, but they weren't really like owning the song. And so I thought that was like a sign of life, because sometimes I worry about the show feeling a bit rigged, like because what they're saying does not match with what I'm seeing. But let's get to the next team. You have Team Bulldozer here, and then you have Narumi here, especially, who's kind of like the MVP of this team. And so these girls, they were happy to get a girl crush song. Narumi, she is the leader, and she wants to win as a team, but also outplay her members. And that seems to be a strange thing. I mean, it's not bad in terms of being ambitious, but hopefully she doesn't sabotage or neglect to support her fellow team members. So during role distribution, we see what's her name, An Young, having vocal issues again, and also during physical training, she seems to have no sense of balance, and she just lacks experience, I would say. But yeah, it was interesting to see them doing yoga and physical training. And then we see. I always thought her name was Gaily, kind of like the food brand, but it's jelly apparently. And I just kind of randomly heard it when people were talking to her. But apparently she doesn't know how to dance at all before coming on the show. But then Narumi specifically worked with her to improve her, and so that erases my suspicions that Narumi would just be like, just like letting people fall behind, even though she wants to become ahead of them. And so I'm impressed that she has that kind of morality, and so the team ends up working together, and then you know everyone is brought in and they're enthusiastic about learning for the final performance. Let's just get to it. So, in my opinion, watching this, I thought it was great. Narumi started off strong, although sometimes I feel like Idota Yui, she wasn't really giving me the full effect, but then sometimes she would be there, sometimes she wouldn't. And so, uh, another thing I noticed that Jelly, or Gaily Jelly, I feel like even though she was doing well, to some degree, I kind of feel like the energy wasn't 100% there, or that she was kind of coasting a bit. Like, I feel like she could have given me 20% more, you know? Uh, but what was interesting is that this performance was still good. And then even like Jang Sua's crying off the stage. And Young is surprisingly doing very well in this. I was very impressed with what she was doing. And then Yona and Sunbin were also doing okay. And you can really tell that when they're all performing together, everyone does well. But then individually, it's kind of probably where Narumi gave special attention that they performed better. But in issues where she may have not given them special attention, it does seem slightly muted. But overall, I felt they were better than the previous team. And Yona, her high note helped at the end. Everyone, they finished their performance, and you could tell. I think they did a good job, and they ended up winning as well. And so I was happy about that. And then in terms of the two people who were saved, it was Narumi and Jelly, and I feel like that was deserved based just on the physicality and the expressions of their performance. I felt like they sold it the best. Now then, they eliminated some people, and the people that they eliminated uh, were Aya, Natsumi, Riel, Venetia, and Park Ye-wan. And I was like, they really eliminated some of the most visible people in the competition, because these are people that you would just naturally notice. And I was just like, why did they eliminate these guys and not like the two remaining people? And I was just like confused about that. But it seems like they protected Suwa and Minari in the end. Even though I feel like Suwa was totally slacking, and Minari, even though when I did look at her, she was doing okay, she wasn't that visible. And not as visible as everyone else who were doing okay. But anyways, that was. This is why I feel like the show is rigged, because it's just like you can see these people being visible, and sometimes visibility is worth way more than like how good you perform. And I just feel like, yeah, this is the judges kind of like resisting how the people will vote. So that's why I think the show is sometimes rigged. But anyways, let's get to the highs. So there's two high groups here. One is Team Highway and one is Team Forever. Forever is pink. Team Highway is black. Something interesting about these guys is that the winners actually get, I guess, original songs. And I'm not sure if both winners get the song released under their own name as a perk, or if it's just the winner of the overall competition. But then I wondered when they announced this if the girls would also get royalties. Another thing that was a perk of these winners, or the high groups, are they seem to be able to choose their own outfits. I don't know if this is normal for all the groups across the board, or if they're just the only ranks that you get to see do this. But that was interesting that they especially get to select what they're gonna wear. And then they also got desserts. So this looked really delicious. I kind of wanted to order some milkshakes when I saw this, and then I paused and I did. Okay? And so let's just get to the performances. Not the performances, the individual teams. So we're looking at Team Rush Hour. This is them. They're all in dark black and maroon. And so Team Highway, uh, they were doing the recording, and then at one point, I guess everyone was doing well, but then Yunha got upset because apparently she had issues remembering how the course went. But even though that's the case, while all these other people were singing, I didn't see her asking anybody or trying very hard to practice it right before she had to do it. I mean, this should have been something that she had figured out, in my opinion. And so, I'm not sure if I feel like she cried, and I don't know, she should have tried harder. And then, also in practice, you see Subin struggling with her high notes. And then Sujin was strangely happy about her teammate maybe not doing well, unless I misinterpreted that. But then, after all this, the trainer basically said as a team, they're practicing like individuals rather than together. And let's just get to their performance. So at the start, I felt like some of the girls were kind of faking the vibe on this. Except for Yuram and Yena. Actually, surprisingly, Yena. I didn't know that she would like look so good doing this whole performance. But I feel like Yuram and Yena, they hit it just about right. And then Neezy, it's funny because I was just about to say terrible things about Neezy because I saw her shuffling to the side and looking kind of like out of character. But then she went low, and then suddenly she was back in the game. And so, in that respect, I would say she was kind of inconsistent. And then Subin's vocal, who we were kind of concerned about her struggling with high notes, in the end, it was actually really good. And then Sujin's notes were actually really good. And then overall, I would say this performance was good by the end. It did start out a bit insincere, but I could tell they were hitting the groove by the midpoint, and then you no longer kind of saw that kind of like I'm faking it thing, and now they were just kind of just enjoying themselves. And so, but that said, it wasn't a perfect performance, and I didn't feel like they deserved to win, which they did. They beat Team Forever, the team that's coming up. And so I was kind of like weirded out about this, and this is one of the reasons I think the show is rigged. I'll talk about it more later. But let's just look at Team Forever. So Team Forever, they have all these people in it, and so the most notable people in this group is probably Jin Hyunju. Oh, by the way, I said Hyunju looks like Belle from Signature. She is Belle from Signature, and so I was just like, I was very confused about that. But it turns out she is the actual girl. And then Lim Seowan is also visible, and then Alicia is probably like, I would say the top, like just untouchable rank on this show. I would have no question about her making it, and if she didn't, I would say there's a lot of problems with the show. But anyways, so backstage, before they actually get to practice backstage, but before they go on stage, you can see leader Yeonju encouraging them just to have fun, despite the performance they just saw, which I would say is kind of overrated. But anyways, during role distribution, everyone wanted the main vocal, and Galactica was so impressed with their vocals that they increased the key on them, and said the team had strong vocals everywhere. And then Alicia performed so well that you could see that Seowan was kind of shook by it. She seemed to be noticing that Alicia's presence somewhat conflicts with her own in some way. And I would say that she just had to be more secure in herself, but it was visibly showing on her face that she was troubled by Alicia. And then parts were reassigned, and then you could tell that Seowan's, I guess, visible jealousy is somewhat justified, but then the producers, it seemed like they were taking way more parts, and so it's different. They're all being assigned, and they were. And so Alicia got the thing that Seowan wanted, and then when Alicia went up, she was so good, and everyone was so impressed with her. But then Seowan starts performing. Where is she? And the producers are making her do multiple takes, redoing things with very vague corrections. And you know what? I kind of explained something like this back during when I was watching A2K or Neezy Project. There is a difference, isn't there, between trainers telling trainees how to perform their parts, and then also a difference between explaining the reasoning or kind of the emotion behind what should be conveyed. And I feel like the trainers keep neglecting to do that in a lot of shows. The only time I didn't see that happening, I would say, is Produce 101 Season 3 Japan. They had the best trainers I've ever seen ever. But in this one, it was one of the cases where they kept telling her what they think a person feeling a certain way should do, rather than just telling her what she should feel, and then to figure out what she should do. But it did seem like the producer was ready to take more parts away, and he actually said he was going to reassign it. But then she cried, and it caused kind of some drama, and I guess they took a break, and when she came back, he decided to keep it all the same. But then he did explain things differently to her, which is kind of just what I was thinking, by the way, about, like, how to comment on it. And he was, like, saying, this is how you should feel, and you gotta figure it out for yourself. And in the end, I don't know if she even ended up doing that. She just ended up copying Alicia and learning from seeing her in real time, which is also a good way to learn, by the way, just seeing an actual example. But yeah, she independently figured it out by observation. But I feel like the producer really did want to change the parts, but he stepped back after that happened. But anyways, you can see that in practice, Sewan was basically talking about how she didn't know how to appear overwhelmed, which was the instruction she received from the producer guy. But anyways, she just ended up just observing Alicia, like I said. But she's just too young. And that's kind of funny because the lyrics of the song relate to her situation about, they say I'm too young, but the character in the song obviously knows how to handle it and kind of hit back. But then she is not the person in the song, but she's performing the song, and she doesn't know how to hit back. And so that's kind of like just a funny thing I noticed. Anyways, let's get to the performance. So something weird about this performance is that everything from the very, like, this little zoom in intro, it looked way more substantial with the lighting and everything. And so, I mean, it was a very good start. And the song, the expressions across the board were all good. I didn't notice any problems with this performance. The moves, they snapped. The camera actually seemed like really into it. I feel like there was a second camera that they cut in and out just to kind of, I don't know if they were trying to mislead us into thinking that they would win. But to me, I was like, there was no weak spots. And when Alicia came up to do her part, I feel like she got intimidated, actually. And I felt like she was slightly off timing. But other than that, I feel like this whole performance was good start to finish. And I was very surprised that they didn't win. I was extremely surprised. But at the same time, I'm looking at this and I see that, you know, who they save later on, who they promote and who they save. So they save Mang Yana, Nizi, Bayaram, and Kim Soo-jin. And then of the other pink team, they basically eliminate Lee Soo-vin and Oh Diane, who are not visible at all, but not any of the favorites either. And so even though I understand these saves and these eliminations, I still don't believe that Team Highway won over Team Forever, and I think it was obvious. I think that that's why I said that in an earlier title. These judges, they look like they're wargaming this, trying to keep in and save many people, and then just kind of like see who could they get eliminate the most of. And so I feel like they could have eliminated 2 people from the other team, and then just save people from Team Forever, and it would have been like very obvious who they should save. But anyways, they could have gone either way and eliminated 2 people and saved 4 people. But I still feel like it was just a no-brainer that Forever beat Highway. And that's one of the reasons I think the show is kind of rigged. But anyways, I guess that's it. I've only got one more episode left that I have backed up. And I don't even know where the show is live. And so I gotta figure that out for when I'm covering this again. Or maybe it'll just appear in the same place I get these episodes, and then I'll cover it kind of belatedly, I guess. But I guess that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why. Maybe you have a favorite in one of the teams that I knocked down or something. I don't remember knocking anyone specifically. I think I complimented people. But I do think that I'm pretty certain about the people who should have won. But anyways, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so I can see you in the next video.